Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live Don Lemon Show, the Live at 5. So glad that you are all here. There's so much I need to discuss with you guys. As you know, today is an AMA, Ask Me Anything. If you want to ask me anything about the Trump trial, we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about what the judge did today in the Trump trial, basically giving Donald Trump a final warning. A lot of you have been asking if he's getting special treatment. You're saying that he should be going to jail for breaching his gag or defying the gag order. So can the judge lock him up? Yes, the judge can lock him up. The judge warned him today. So I'm so glad that you're all here today. But there's something that I want to talk to you about that's gaining traction on social media, something that we did last week on the show. And people on social media, especially Twitter and so on, have been questioning us about it. And I just want people to talk about it and to hear exactly what we're talking about. And then I want to get your response. And then we're going to talk about the Trump trial. But again, this is really gaining traction. What it has to do is it has to do with the rights of women in Gaza and Palestine. And it has to do with the rights of the LGBTQ community in Gaza and Palestine. I had a discussion with Taylor Lorenz last week and with Dr. Jen Goldbeck last week. And we talked about there is a sort of disconnect with some people about the rights and some protesters about the rights of people there versus in Israel. Okay. And then we're going to move on to the Trump trial. But I just want to play you guys exactly what was said, and then I want to get your feedback. Okay, then I'll get your feedback. Okay, so here it is, and I'll play it. Well, then, Taylor, how do you reconcile the way marginalized groups? Many of the people in these marginalized groups, obviously, they are fighting for Palestine, right, for the Palestinians, for what's happening in Gaza. But yet, in Gaza, they would not have any freedom.
They don't have freedoms in Texas and Florida. I mean,
but they don't. But I understand that. But Taylor,
Texas?
I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. If I go to Texas, yes, they're not going to throw me off of a roof. Okay, so there you go. So it was tough because she was comparing what is happening, what could happen in Gaza, and what can happen in certain countries in the Middle East. She is comparing that to what will happen if you go down south, if you go to Texas, if you go to whatever. Now, I understand that if I am in a certain part of the country and in certain areas, that I don't feel as safe as other places that I'm in. And it's difficult for me to talk about this because, it's personal for me. And, it's a tough conversation because I believe in, obviously, the rights for everybody to coexist equally. People, the LGBTQ community and women are treated harshly in Gaza and in Palestine, and it should be an issue for everyone. And Taylor's not here to defend herself. I understand what she meant, but I don't think the two are equal. So people are saying, on Twitter or on, they're saying even Don Lemon had to set her straight and tell her, about this, and I had to correct her. I don't think that I corrected her, but I do think that there is a difference between facing, prejudice, everyday prejudice, rather than your life being threatened. Now, lives are being threatened when people are homophobic, and they can do that. And, just because people are homophobic in Texas, I don't think that they should be carpet bombed for it, right? That the place should be obliterated because of that. I think that people need to go in strategically and talk to people and try to win them over and get them to understand that gay rights or women's rights are human rights, that we all are equal and that we all should be equal. So I just want to play it one more time. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about it, because I do think that this is an important discussion, especially for what's happening with women in society and the right to choose. Okay, so here we go once again. Well, then, Taylor, how do you reconcile the way marginalized groups? Many of the people in these marginalized groups, obviously, they are fighting for Palestine, right, for the Palestinians, for what's happening in Gaza. But yet in Gaza, they would not have any freedom.
They don't have freedoms in Texas and Florida. Does that mean?
But they don't. But I understand that. But Taylor,
Taylor,
I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. If I go to Texas,
Yes.
they're not going to throw me off of a roof. They're not going. Okay, so here's the thing. I understand what she's saying, and maybe she misspoke because she said they don't have freedoms in Texas and Florida. People do have freedoms in Texas and Florida. I mean, Houston and Dallas and Miami have some of the largest gay populations in the country. Now, maybe she meant that that LGBTQ members face discrimination in those places. I understand that. The Don't Say Gay bill, that women face discrimination in those places, that they don't have equal rights when it comes to what they want to do with their bodies, with the woman's right to choose. But it doesn't mean that those people don't have all the freedoms that go along with being an American, even if some people want to inhibit it. Same-sex marriage is legal across the country. Obviously, women can vote. In many states, women can have abortions. They do have the right to choose. They can go across state lines and do it. I'm not saying that that's right, that they have to do it. But I understand maybe what she's trying to say. But I think that most people in this country have the same freedoms. People don't want them to have it in some instances, and they fight against it. But at the end of the day, this is America, and it's not the same thing. I want to know what you guys have to say. I want to hear from you. And I know that I've asked you to send me some of your questions, and I would like to read some of the questions. I'll get some of the ones that are online here. But again, I just want to read some of the questions and hear what you guys have to say about this, because this is a difficult conversation, and I want to be fair to everyone who's involved in this conversation. Okay, so here are the things. So the questions are, Joshua, I want questions that are directly related to what I'm talking about. And I don't see any of them in so far that are directly related to what I'm talking about. I don't see any that are directly related to what I'm talking about. Don, how do you think you handled the conversation with Taylor, says one person. I think I handled it well. I don't want to badger people when they're on. I think I got my point across. I could have gotten it across better by saying, I understand that I don't think you mean they don't have freedom. I think you may mean that they face discrimination that's higher than other places. And that goes for women and members of the LGBTQ community. Now, let me just say this about women. Let me just say this, all right, just so you guys know that I'm not just making stuff up, okay? So gay and transgender people, both in Gaza and the West Bank, face an extraordinary level of persecution that can result in years-long prison sentences and even death. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. In 2016, Hamas militants executed one of their own commanders for allegedly having sex with another man. The alliance group that he was part of, it was very clear. Just 2 years prior, he had overseen 1,000 soldiers and an assortment of attack tunnels. But not even his loyalty could save him after they lodged accusations that he had engaged in homosexual activity. Prior to executing him with 3 bullets to the chest, Hamas reportedly tortured him by whipping him, hanging him from a ceiling for hours, and cranking loud music into his cell in order to deprive him of sleep. Another example. Last year in the West Bank, a 25-year-old man, his severed head was found on the side of the road after he was murdered for being gay. The killer videoed the execution and shared it on social media. The thing is that I was trying to say that there is this disconnect, and people are trying to reconcile being pro-Palestinian, I should say, or pro-Gaza, or pro-Palestinian, because it's not just Hamas. This is tough. Because when it comes to Queers for Palestine, the ironic thing is that many LGBTQ Palestinians seek asylum in Israel. the same country that the stateside protesters are rallying against, at least the government in Israel. So members of the LGBTQ community and women come or go to Israel to seek asylum. As it relates to women, according to Amnesty International, women still did not have equal rights to men in personal status laws, which continue to be subject to religious law. According to the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, 59% of married women and girls experience violence at the hands of their partner. Now, again, I don't want to cast aspersions on a whole group of people, but those are the facts when it comes to women and members of the LGBTQ community in Gaza and larger in the larger Palestine. Don, do you think that groups like Queers for Palestine are ignorant of the violence against LGBTQ people in Gaza and they are fully aware and are leading with their hearts? I think that they are aware somewhat. I do think that they are leading with their hearts. They can be leading with their hearts and they can be aware because maybe they just want the people of Gaza to have the same rights that people in democracies have. And they know that there are many people in the government and many members of their society and many members of Hamas who may disagree with that. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight for equal rights, that we shouldn't fight for protection and for the freedoms of people who live in places that face discrimination like that. Don, can people be both Palestinian and pro-gay? Of course they can be Palestinian and pro-gay, even though the laws and rules of their society may think differently, even their religion, but even the rules of American religion in the West speak out against homosexuality and against the rights of women. Don, this makes me think the log cabin Republicans, what do you think of them? That's tough. It's tough because I think anyone in this country has a right to be a part of any political group that they want, whether it's a Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But I don't understand people belonging to a party that really does not want them to exist. Now, I remember this incident. There was an incident back last year sometime. There was a member of, I think it was a log cabin Republican or a Republican. He may have even been an African-American man. I don't know. But he went to a bar in Texas or so, I think it was Texas. And he was shouted racial slurs, the N-word, and homophobic slurs by people who he say were Republicans who did not want people like him in the party. I don't understand how anyone can be a part of a party that does not want them to exist. Period. Many members of the Republican Party don't believe in gay rights. They believe that people who want equal rights who are members of the LGBTQ community, they think it's special rights. There's no special rights. It's equal rights. It's equal rights. So that's how I feel about that. I thought I handled it okay. I can always handle a situation better when you go back over situations and, you have time to Monday morning quarterback them. So if I had more time, perhaps I would do things differently, right? Perhaps I would say something differently about what was happening. All right. So that's that. And I wanted to talk about this because it's difficult. And I know that, you guys may think, hey, we want to hear about the Trump trial. We want to do whatever. All right. Got it. I get it. And I agree with you. There are people on the chat who are saying, equal rights are human rights, right? I think the same thing. I think it is the same as appealing to your abuser. True that. I agree. Don, this is a great informative show. You always do a great job. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Equal rights, says some of you. And I appreciate all of you in the chat. Okay. So thank you so much for doing that. Now let's go on and talk about what happened at the Trump trial. So the first thing this morning, remember we talked last week about Donald Trump being sanctioned for 9 times, $9,000 for defying and breaking the gag order that Judge Merchan imposed on him. 9 times. The judge said, do not speak ill of any of the witnesses, of anyone's family involved, the judge's family, and on and on and on. He gave him an order and told him not to do it. Donald Trump did it anyway. So he did it again. And then the prosecution filed with the judge another request to impose sanctions on Donald Trump for defying the gag order. And this morning, the judge did it. Now, let me tell you what the judge said. This is the 4th week of the trial. It's really the 3rd week of the trial. The first week was jury selection. So however you want to qualify that. But here's what the judge said. The judge told him that this was his final warning to the president. And I quote, he says, I'll find you in criminal contempt for the 10th time, Merchan said in a stark tone. It appears that the $1,000 fines are not serving as a deterrent, he told him. Therefore, going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sanction. Going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sanction, Mr. Trump. It's important to understand the last thing I want to do is put you in jail. You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next one as well. But then he goes on to say that I have to do my job. And part of his job may be putting Donald Trump in jail for defying another gag order. Okay? I want to show you right after that, and then I'll ask my question. I want to show you right after that exactly what the former president did when he walked out of court after being sanctioned again for $1,000. That's $10,000 so far. And then warned that he could go to jail. This is what Donald Trump did immediately after.
You're going to testify? I have a gag order as to that first question. As you know, they've taken away my constitutional rights, so I'm not allowed to answer that question. This has never happened in this country before. It's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous case. I did nothing wrong.
Okay. This has never happened before in this country. Yeah, people face the consequences for their actions all the time. His rights are not being taken away from him. He's in the middle of a trial, and he's being asked not to do certain things. Any one of us who are asked not to do certain things would have to comply and may not get a warning or 2 warnings or 3 warnings. They may end up in jail. It's not the first time that it's happened. People are sanctioned all the time by the court for defying orders. Let's continue.
Absolutely nothing wrong. Take a look at Greg Jarrett this morning. He went on. Take a look at Andrew McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or Mark Levin. It's like they say there's no case here.
Okay. Every person he mentioned there is a conservative and or fringe media pundit or contributor. He did not cite one independent person. And there are many people who are saying, yes, there is a case. And if there were not a case, the judge would have thrown it out. Obviously, there's a case.
And yet the judge has gagged me, and I'm not allowed to talk about, I guess, his total conflict. The judge is totally conflicted, and you ought to take a look at it.
The judge is conflicted. About what? If there was a conflict of interest with the judge, the defense, meaning Donald Trump's attorneys, would have filed a motion to have him removed And if there was any evidence that there was a conflict of interest with the judge, that would have been decided before the trial, and the judge would have been removed or reassigned, and they would have gotten another judge. And if it does happen that maybe they'll find a conflict, I doubt it, but if they do, then that judge will be removed from the case. The judge is not conflicted.
And I'm not supposed to be talking about it, but I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it.
The judge has a conflict that nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it. He did not give any evidence. Where is the evidence? You ought to take a look at it. I mean, sounds good for him to say, but why don't you just tell us what the conflict is? Didn't do it.
He's taken away my constitutional right to speak. I was in Miami this weekend, and reporters are asking me questions, the same questions like you're asking me, and I have to say I have a gag order. I can't speak about it.
Okay. He hasn't taken away his constitutional rights. You know why? Because he's standing in front of cameras and microphones and he's speaking now. He has been given certain rules, as I said before, the same rules that any other person under these circumstances would be given, and they would have to abide by the rules. And again, anybody else would have probably gone to jail already for defying the orders. He has been able to speak to reporters. He's speaking to reporters now. So what he's saying does not make sense.
Never happened before, ever.
It's happened
Number one.
before.
Number two, it's a fake trial. They have no case. And it's been absolutely proven now that.
Okay, so he says it's a fake trial and they have no case. If it was a fake trial, then why doesn't he just not show up if he believes it's fake? A fake trial means this is not, I don't have to show up for this. It's a fake trial. Where have we heard that fake thing before? Fake news. If the truth is not on your side, then you attack the person or the process or the institution who is telling the truth about you. So he has to say that the trial is fake in order to get his supporters to believe something else. He's trying to create his own reality here. It's not a fake trial.
Have no case whatsoever. This is Alvin Bragg doing it for political reasons for Biden. This is a Biden trial. He's a crooked president.
Okay. This is a Biden trial and he's a crooked president. All right, don't leave the crooked part because we all know that, Joe Biden, there's been no proof. They have been trying to impeach him. The Republicans in the Congress have been trying to impeach him, Comer, for a while now. They found no evidence to link him to anything that Hunter Biden has done. They found no evidence to show or prove that Joe Biden is corrupt. Okay. Outside of that, to say that this is a Joe Biden trial, this is not a federal trial. This was brought by the state's attorney in Manhattan, the Manhattan district attorney, excuse me. This is not a federal case. Joe Biden has nothing to do with this. So he says Joe Biden is corrupt, and then here we go.
Now, it just came out, Columbia just canceled their commencement. Axios. Columbia just canceled their commencement. That shouldn't happen. And it also came out that the protesters, many of the protesters, are backed by Biden's donors. Okay, are you listening, Israel? I hope you're listening, Israel. Hope you're getting smart. But they're backed by Biden donors. That's where the money's coming from.
Okay, so we talked about this yesterday on the program. That was a Politico report. Now, he's right. There was a Politico report that stated that. But here is the thing, according to the Politico report. Those people who are donating, it's like a bundle. Or if you put your money in a fund, and the fund has invested in a number of other funds. So this is part of a group who people who donate to a particular political group that have interest in both Democratic and Republican interests, I should say. So it's not a specific thing where they're saying, I want my money to go to this. You have to read the report to understand it. Now, this is a distraction. What does that have to do with his trial? Someone handed him a piece of paper, one of his apologists, and said, here, Mr. Trump, Donald, read this when you go out, because they want to take the attention away from what is happening with the trial, and that is that it's going badly. And according to our friends over at the Midas Touch Network, the president is panicking. He's having panic attacks in the middle of the night because the trial is going so badly. At first, they were thinking it wasn't a big deal. A lot of people who were watching the trial saying, I wish they hadn't brought this one to trial first because they didn't think it was important enough or that it was weak. And they're now saying, wow, this is a strong case. Perhaps this was the best one to start with. By the way, maybe the only one they get to if the Supreme Court continues to drag its feet.
And I'm not surprised at all. There's many other articles, many of them having to do with the gag order and the unconstitutionality having to do with the gag order. And it is unconstitutional and it shouldn't be allowed. And I wish people could move a little bit quicker, the appellate courts, because the whole world is watching this and see what's happening. More importantly, frankly, they have no case. They have absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference, anything they can do. And even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair, but we will fight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to play this. I want you guys to see something. There's a reason I'm doing this. And I'm going to pause it right there. Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Because there's someone here I want you to see. Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Okay. So he's saying that they have no case and that the witnesses they want to bring up, he's trying to sully the witnesses or impugn their credibility or make people, his folks, in the eyes of the MAGA crowd, he's trying to make them believe that these people are corrupt. They have nothing to do with the case. Okay. Hope Hicks, who testified last week, his right-hand woman, with him for years. She was there for every bit of everything. David Pecker was part of the entire catch and kill scheme. It was his job to do it. Michael Cohen went to jail in association with this very same scheme, went to prison. And there are others who are testifying. Stormy Daniels, the person who the money went to. Karen McDougal, the person who the money went to. How do they have nothing to do with the case? They are the case. They are the case. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think Trump actually wants to end up in prison for a short period? Does he want to end up in prison because he thinks, I should say in jail, end up in jail, not prison, because if he defies the order, it's not prison. It's just, they're going to hold him for a bit. Do you think he should end up in jail? Do you think he wants, my question, excuse me, do you think he wants to end up in jail because he thinks it's going to help him? I asked that on social media and people were saying yes, because he thinks he wants to be a martyr. He thinks his poll numbers will go up if he does that. That's what I would like to know from you guys. While you're answering that, the reason that I paused is because I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on this screen. I'm not sure if you can see the cursor on the screen, because there it is. Okay, see that person to the left in the back there? I don't know if I can, standing next to the lady and to the left of your screen, that's Eric Trump. Now that's his son. And it had been said that he had no family members in court. Eric Trump came to court for the first time last week to support his father. I guess they heard possibly, the criticism that Donald Trump had no family members there in court. So Eric Trump showed up. There was a court witness and a court reporter who said she actually felt sorry for Eric Trump because Eric Trump, she believes, was seeing the evidence against Donald Trump for the first time. For the first time, and they had it up in court on giant slides. It was projected into the court, and he had to see the allegations against his father, the hush money payments, the adult film star aspect of it, the Playboy bunny aspect of it, the my wife had just had a baby aspect of it, and all the details of what had happened and transpired with Catch and Kill. So maybe you can understand why members of his family didn't show up in court or didn't want to show up in court. I don't know. To be subjected to that. If you were Melania Trump, would you want to be in court where Stormy Daniels is going to be? If you were Melania Trump, would you want to be in court where Karen McDougal is going to be? Because here's the thing. If they did not have an affair or have sex in a hotel room, I think it was a golf tournament, I forget where it was. If they didn't do that, why would he pay them off? You could just simply say it's not true. And where's your evidence? You have no evidence. He's quite used to saying things are fake and it's not real. So Eric Trump was in court. Let's see if other family members show up, and let's see what you guys say in the poll. Do you think Trump actually wants to end up in jail for a short period of time? 77% of you say yes. 77% of you say yes. 76 now. Interesting. Why is that? I wonder if he does believe that it will help him with his constituents, that it's going to help his poll numbers. Almost to 1,000 thumbs up, someone says. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Timothy. Timothy Malone is saying that. Thank you. For the pity party, Nicholas Soria says, yeah, he wants a pity party. Will it help him? Someone is asking. I think it might help him among his constituents, because then it bolsters the idea that he is being treated unfairly. There are people who will believe what he says about this. They'll believe everything that he is saying. Now, here's the thing that I know you guys may find it annoying, but I want you to listen to everything he says. I'm going to play it in its entirety, and I want you to listen, and I want you to just, now that I've told you all of those things, just listen to it with an open mind, and then tell me what you think he's doing here.
You're going to testify? I have a gag order as to that first question. As you know, they've taken away my constitutional rights, so I'm not allowed to answer that question. This has never happened in this country, where it's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous case. I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. Take a look at Greg Jarrett this morning. He went on. Take a look at Andrew McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or Mark Levin. It's like they say there's no case here. And yet the judge has gagged me, and I'm not allowed to talk about, I guess, his total conflict. The judge is totally conflicted, and you ought to take a look at it. And I'm not supposed to be talking about it, but I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it. He's taken away my constitutional right to speak. I was in Miami this weekend, and reporters are asking me questions, the same questions like you're asking me, and I have to say I have a gag order. I can't speak about it. Never happened before, ever. Number one. Number two, it's a fake trial. They have no case, and it's been absolutely proven now. They have no case whatsoever. This is Alvin Bragg doing it for political reasons for Biden. This is a Biden trial. He's a crooked president. Now, it just came out, Colombia just canceled their commencement. Axios. Colombia just canceled their commencement. That shouldn't happen. And it also came out that the protesters, many of the protesters, are backed by Biden's donors. Okay, are you listening, Israel? I hope you're listening, Israel. Hope you're getting smart. but they're backed by Biden donors. That's where the money's coming from. And I'm not surprised at all. There's many other articles, many of them having to do with the gag order and the unconstitutionality having to do with the gag order. And it is unconstitutional and it shouldn't be allowed. And I wish people could move a little bit quicker, the appellate courts, because the whole world is watching this and they see what's happening. More importantly, frankly, they have no case. They have absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference. Anything they can do. And even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair, but we will fight. Thank you.
So that was the former president in court today, right after the judge said, hey, stop talking. He's still talking. Eric Trump, his son, in the background. I don't know if you saw the guy. There was a gentleman I can just make out from his face in between Donald Trump and his attorney, and that was Boris Epstein. Do you remember him? He was a Trump apologist. And he, quite frequently would appear on television programs to defend Donald Trump, including the Access Hollywood tape and on and on. So I asked you guys to ask me anything. You have questions. Here's what I'm going to ask you. So here's what I'm going to answer to you, some that you asked. Barbara Antonelli says, saw the interview this afternoon, scared me even more than I am already. Should I increase my level of fear, or is it shaky knees sufficient fear for now? The interview regarding Trump, you're talking about the interview that I did earlier with Luke Beasley, who is a YouTuber, and he's a person who goes out and speaks to MAGA folks in the crowd. He actually gets some of them to change their minds, and he gives them information about Donald Trump that they didn't know. And then they say, okay, I'm still going to support him, but I did not know that. And also defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh, they were on. Yeah, should you be scared? Yeah, people should be scared. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I think people should be scared. I think people need to know what's at stake here. And I know, some of the Trumpers and the MAGA people will say, oh my gosh, it's this MAGA and, you have Trump derangement. It's not Trump derangement. Our democracy is on the line. Except for Eric Trump, Don, Trump's family hasn't supported him in court. Why do you think that is? Well, I said it. Would you want to be subjected to that? And maybe Donald Trump doesn't want his family subjected to that. I have no idea. I don't know. But there's a reason they're not there. Maybe they just don't want to be seen inside of a courtroom for this criminal case. It's not a good look for them. Do you think it is fair that Michael Cohen can insult and attack Donald Trump online, but Trump is barred from returning fire because of the gag order? Yes. You want me to tell you why? Because Michael Cohen is not on trial. Donald Trump is on trial. Now, those things that he's saying online can be used against him in a court of law, his credibility, if it is allowed in. His attorneys can bring it up and say they've done it. As a matter of fact, they did bring it up. That was Donald Trump's defense, his attorney's defense. They said, my client was simply responding to political attacks. And the judge said, no. Michael Cohen is not on trial. Do you fear that Trump will have his attorney general prosecute people like Judge Marchand or Alvin Bragg if he wins the White House again? Yeah, I don't fear that. I know that. That's what he says. He said it himself. He has said it himself that he is going to go after his political opponents, that he's going to go after news organizations. He's going to shut it down. He said he's going to put up some sort of camps for immigrants at the border and inland. He said that he wants to use the National Guard against citizens and people in the United States within the confines of our borders. So, yes, I do believe that he will do that. So that's it. So I'm going to leave you on a note today. I want to know, this is the poll before I get out of here and leave you to your Monday evening. Who are you? Are you Team Drake Or are you team Kendrick Lamar? Are you team Drake? And make sure you hit the thumbs up button, please. We're going to get to 1,000 today. Are you team Drake or are you team Kendrick Lamar? Who are you? If you guys don't know what's happening, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, they've got a rap battle going. They have the diss tracks going back and forth. I was laughing this weekend going, oh my gosh. I put out a tweet this morning and I said, you know, Kendrick and Drake, who cares about that? The real diss track is going on in the courtroom in Manhattan between Judge Marchand and Donald Trump. So who are you? Look, I remember in 2018 or 2019. I think it was 18. It may have been 19. I'm not sure. But when Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer for his lyrics and for what they call his poetry that he's putting out into the universe, I remember I sat next to him. I'll put the picture up online again. It's on, there's a tweet out there from back, I think, again, it's 2018. Whatever year, I remember, you know how I remember it's bizarre? I remember because it's one of the same suits that I wore to Meghan and Harry's wedding. And then I had it on just like a couple weeks later at this thing. But I want to know which team you're on. So, you know, I like both of them, but I have to say I'm team Kendrick. I think Kendrick is a poet. Okay, don't care. I understand. And I didn't care at first, but this is when the New York Times writes about something, then you know it has crossed over, because at first it was just within the hip hop and rap community. And then it was among aficionados. And then it sort of spread to the entertainment folks. And then this morning I woke up to an article in the New York Times. So here we go. I just want to have a little fun before we leave here. You guys say Team Kendrick Lamar, 71%. 71%. 71%. Thank you guys. I appreciate you joining today. Make sure you, if you want to know exactly what's happening in the court and you want to get some official voices on Judge Marchand's sanctions and if Donald Trump could end up in jail, make sure you tune into the show from earlier with Luke Beasley and defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. And guess what? Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Oh, and I want to show you guys something. I sat down today with a very special person, and it's going to drop on Thursday. And I'm going to show you why I sat down with them and why you have to listen. It is the most fascinating conversation I've had recently. There it is. Whoopi Goldberg and I sat down today for a fascinating conversation. So make sure you stay tuned to that. I look forward to that on Thursday. Whoopi. And then make sure you tune into the show that we did earlier today. Okay. Thank you for, this is our, as you know, this is our show where I just interact with you guys, and I appreciate the interaction. I call this my viewer show, my community show, the Lemonhead Show. So thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow this community. And I love the way that we get and give news to each other. It's really important to me. I hope it's important to you. And I will see you tomorrow. Have the best and safest evening ever. Okay. Bye, everyone. I love you too. Thank you, Sheila D. I love you too. Bye-bye.